The lacrimal bones are very important. They contain the lacrimal duct, which drains tears from the eye and directs it to the nasal cavity. Also, the lacrimal bone in general supports the bridge of the nose and forms portions of the medial part of the orbit. You wouldn't want to live without a lacrimal bone. It is so hard to run the body of a mammal. They need so much energy. They are warm-blooded or endothermic and maintain a high body temperature all the time. They have huge brains compared to other animals. These don't come cheap, and so mammals need to eat a lot, and they have to breathe a lot of oxygen, and so therefore they need a separation between their oral cavity and their nasal cavity, because they are always eating and always breathing, and they can't afford to interrupt either. And so the palatine bones help to form part of the hard palate, which separates the oral cavity from the nasal cavity. This allows the mammals to eat and breathe at the same time. And when we swallow, we help to force food into the esophagus. Without us, people might be having juices coming out their nose frequently just because swallowing would not work as easily.
When you take a deep breath of air, you don't necessarily want this to go straight to your lungs. The air may be cold, the air may be dry, the air may be full of germs, or dust, or sand, or diesel particles, and so therefore you want the air to swirl around in your nasal cavity so that it can warm up and moisten, and germs and dust can get caught in the mucus which line the nasal cavity. This swirling is performed by the conchi. There are 3 pairs of conchi. 2 pairs belong to the ethmoid bone, but the 3rd pair, the inferior nasal conchi, or the turbinates, we are our own separate bones of the face. You wouldn't want to live without us. There would just be less of this swirling of air which would occur.
You wouldn't want to live without a VOMER. The VOMER forms the part of the nasal septum originating in the face. So, from the floor of the nasal cavity, the VOMER provides some support for the ethmoid bone, which otherwise might be more easily dislodged and not properly supported, and thus the brain would not have as much protection. So, the VOMER helps to separate the nasal cavity into 2 lateral halves.
The early vertebrates possessed many bones in their lower jaw, a whole bunch of them. Some of these even remain in early embryonic development. But in mammals there is only one bone which composes the lower jaw, the mandible, which then holds all of the teeth and articulates with the temporal bone at the temporomandibular joint for the jaw joint. This jaw joint is one that only mammals possess. Other animals use different bones where the upper and lower jaws meet. Also, the mandible possesses a coronoid process and a prominent ramus where muscles can attach, the muscles which close the jaw and allow chewing. So the mandible is extremely important. You wouldn't want to live without that.